Hello and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over that away, you will see the real Alex Gibbons. You can catch him on Arrowhead Attic, where he drops all of his knowledge in written form over there. And we're kind of getting close-ish to the regular season. Not really, but close enough. Where the Lightning Fast, podcast is coming up on the Lockdown Defense Network. Sorry, I got the whole words crossed there in my mind.
Jumbled.
Yeah.
Peter Piper.
One of those things. Yeah, exactly. And then we got down here below Mr. Roberto Garcia, who is repping the. I'm going to turn to Italian at some point, and we'll eventually get there.
Before we go there, I actually met another Chargers fan, Rob. So I think that's about 7 now.
What jersey you got on there? It looks like it's from Alibaba.
My Herbert jersey. This is my Herbo jersey.
It's like from AliExpress.
Yeah, this is straight from what is it? It's a DH gate. Oh yeah.
Yeah, there it is.
Yeah, I will never spend full price on a jersey. Hell no.
Slightly different toned blue.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate there, Robert, because you should have really bought a Phillip Rivers jersey. He really could have used the extra money with his 12 kids. It is what it is.
Man.
Oops, he had another one.
Yeah, I know. So, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of this podcast he doesn't announce his 13th.
Yeah. And down directly below here is the one and the only Captain Jack Rackham. You can catch him across all socials where he goes ahead and calls out Phillip Rivers' bevy of kids, as well as everything Raiders, because, it's just what you do. He is traveling all over. You can catch all of his travels across socials as well. It's a pretty interesting thing. Are you planning on crossing the border at all or no?
Actually, if I did, I can go down south, because I was told that I didn't bring my passport with me, but I've been told dude, don't worry about it. Now, I might have some trouble if I was to go up north without my passport, but down south, they're like...
Big papers?
Yeah. No, not Germany. Get some papers. Get in the truck. Get in the trucks. Papers, please.
No, so you're not coming up north, are you? Like to Canada?
Not this trip. But if I do make it up there, I will make sure that I have my passport with me. And before I go anywhere else, like I said, I am in the wonderful, wonderful home of the Raider Squid, who is a friend and family of all the Raider fans there. As you can see, hey Clayton, one of the other cool Bronco fans. I think that's 3 that there are. And we are. We're at his house. And great picture. He's got a signed copy of the Soul Patrol. This is the Raider Squid leather garment that he wears. And if you see over here, that's actually his mask. That I don't want to get my hand in the way so you can see it. So he wears that. And I was, if I'm not, I might be mistaken, but I believe that he did the unveiling of his persona at the Raiders Seahawks game in London, because he was over in Europe at the time. And I believe, I might be wrong, but I think that was either the grand premiere, it was a soft opening, but he was definitely out there, and I got a chance to meet him. Great sailor that he is. He now is a fellow chief petty officer. And Captain, I said,
yeah.
Okay. Hey, Ken, how much is your charge on your phone, Jack? Okay, that's all.
Hey, Jack's got to be riding high as Kings won last night. Baby.
Yeah, and my Flyers were officially eliminated from the playoffs on the last game of the year. I actually looked at it. I said, did the Flyers make the playoffs? And then it was like, Flyers eliminated. I'm like, really?
That was, not to get into hockey, but that was a rough end of the year, to say the least.
There are other things going on. I was at my first Dodger game yesterday.
Hey.
Yeah.
Doyers.
Yeah.
Those Doyers.
The Doyers. And I had to do the bucket list of having go to Chavez Ravine. Beautiful stadium. Yeah. But I unfortunately I was on my phone a lot.
What?
Yeah, well, because I had people I had to, talk with and get my updates in. So, yeah, I was on
I
my.
got you, dude.
So, anyway, but again, off to things that are important to the crew of the AFC West. I will shut up for a little while. Hey, see, you didn't have me for a full show last week, so you don't have to make up.
Yeah. So we have an interesting show. This is going to be a little bit of a different format from some of the other podcasts out there. We're uniquely situated in terms of timing for you guys here, and we've intentionally planned it this way. So this is not an accident or anything, which is we will be doing a mock draft that we want all of your input on, and that will be next week's show. This week we're going to go a little bit more of like a higher level, kind of just analyze the roster and then throw out a few names that we think might be interesting for each of our teams at each of the positions. So we're going to kind of go through some scenarios and whatnot from that perspective. Obviously, those that are Raiders fans chime in and jump in with Captain here to give him names and some other suggestions. And then if those of you recognize some of the names that we're spewing out here for the rest of us here, or if there's any Broncos fans, so Clayton and some other folks here, jump in for our respective teams and give some feedback in terms of what you think. And obviously, if you disagree with any of us, we want to hear that in the comments too, because
anything that Robert says, I disagree with.
Well, I probably. But at the end of the day, it's going to be really interesting to hear what other opinions are when it comes to the other team's vantage point on our teams.
Thank you, sir.
That's actually one of the things that I love about this podcast that we get, which is we have such a diverse fan base here that we get other perspectives. Who is Vanna there?
Sorry. Oh, that was Squid. He off stage. He gave me a wonderful glass. Says the answer is beer. It's as a true sailor.
Mm-hmm.
So see if you can. Yeah, the answer is beer. I don't want to tilt it. It's going to spill on my computer.
Actually, the answer is whiskey, but that's close enough.
Well, I get that. That's at my home. I still haven't opened that up. I need a reason to open that up.
So, anyways, and sorry, yes, I do have the boot here still.
Nice.
For those that are wondering, I just haven't filled it for today's show. But anyways, das Boot.
Just always think of beer fest. I see that.
Yeah. One last thing I do want to just cover off here, guys. Anyone joining us live, click those like buttons down below. It helps all of our channels a ton. It gets the show out to more people just like you, and we get some really, really interesting commenters and new fans of the show as a result. Click those thumbs up, leave comments down below after the video if you have any questions, and let's get right into it. Alex, I'm going to throw over to you and start with your Kansas City Chiefs. I think before we maybe get into some of the details here, I do think there are some things just really quick to go over on the Rashid Rice situation very, very briefly. I don't want to spend much time on this at all and go just a quick little rundown. He did have 8 total independent items brought forward. There was some course correction after our last show. 2 of them were felonies, if you will. And then the other 6 were misdemeanors, amongst some other things. So I just think it's really important to set the record straight to make sure that we were clear, because I don't want us to give any information that's incorrect on the show. We had some early information. Some of the early info was incorrect, actually, in terms of what came out.
As an intel guy, first reports are usually
never
wrong.
Good.
First reports are usually wrong.
We're just trying to get the first up.
And you're getting this information from a real lawyer. Hey,
yeah.
You get a double dose of good stuff. So I wanted to pimp you up. Like I said, although the best person in that house is Mrs. Gibbons, again, we like that. Tell her I said hi. Tell her I said hi.
I will.
So, but you're absolutely right. So there's just some minor modifications. Posted bond, got out same day.
Yeah, I think it was also confirmed he was going like 119.
119. Yeah,
at 119 the time of the accident. So that probably elevated a charge or two. But I mean, ultimately, I still think that legally speaking, he's not going to do any jail time or anything like that. I think the biggest factor with these things, especially when there's no serious injuries, I mean, I'm not practicing in Texas, but they're all somewhat the same in how they look at stuff. If it's someone's first initial charge, like meaning they don't have some aggressive criminal history, they're likely going to kind of get a slap on the wrist and like, we better not see you back. And then, that's where we kind of talked about that's up to him to decide, do I go down the right path or get back here in a year for doing something else stupid. And as far as I've seen, I haven't looked too far into it, but I don't think he has a significant criminal history. I do think he has a significant character history in terms of stuff he did in college and things like that. But I'm just telling you from a legal perspective, if he doesn't have any other charges in his history, then he's likely not going to be doing any sort of jail time or anything like that. And I would be shocked if a plea deal has not already been 75% of the way worked through. Then the other update to it is I know he was civilly sued, I believe, by two separate families. There's two separate drivers asking for, I think, 10 plus million in damages. So, which I did say from the onset, he's definitely going to pay for this monetarily wise if he doesn't, pay the full brunt of the criminal aspect. And we've already seen, the early dominoes fall with that. And I would be shocked if there's not more civil suits, coming out from, because I think there was six to eight different vehicles involved. So depending on who was in each vehicle, I mean, you could have up to 12 different suits if you have passengers of vehicles and everything else. So I mean, he's going to be facing some pretty significant financial constraints, with that. But legally, I unless there's further information that comes out of a history, I don't think he does any sort of jail time. But I do still see probably 6 to 8 game suspension coming his way.
Yeah, well, his lawyer's going to be like, to show me the money, and he's
racking that legal fees up for sure.
Oh yeah.
I'm pretty sure the guy's a senator too, or was. So
he is. He is.
He's not charging less than $4.50 an hour.
Oh no,
that might be low ball.
Yeah, that might be the low end of it.
Yeah.
Hey, $4.50 an hour is not bad. That's less than minimum wage in California. So
yeah. So anyways, just a couple items there. I just thought that, I did feel we did a great job of analyzing that situation. And I think in our very first show when we discussed it, that was a me thing where I kind of had some foreshadowing in terms of the street racing element. What will be interesting to me, Alex, and this is one that is still a low-key potential here, which is one of the things that the Texas law allows them to do is confiscate a vehicle that's involved in street racing. And it would be incredibly interesting because now it's come out where they've clarified he owned the Corvette and was leasing the Lambo.
Yeah.
And what would be really interesting from just a purely factual perspective here, which is I guarantee you the damage to the vet is not enough where it's not worth it to fix it. Right? And I would not be surprised if the state didn't confiscate the vet as so if they're not going to throw him in jail, he's probably going to lose the car.
Cars.
Right?
Probably.
No, he can't lose the Lambo because the Lambo is technically not owned by him.
Yeah, but he's
it's probably totaled out. He's gonna have to pay for the full value of it. And
he'll probably lose the value of the Lambo, so that's probably correct. Yes, I agree with that. But because the Lambo is probably at that intersection point in the actuarial tables. I'm quite good with math, and so I happen to know many of them that are actuarials. And
You
they
can't
do the
even
sliding
say actuarials, but you're pretty good at it. That's
yeah. So, well, I say it like a Canadian, so deal with it.
actuarials, eh?
Actuarials. So just deal with it. And look, you say about wrong too.
A
boot.
Boot.
Yeah.
Just a boot.
And by the way, it's garbage, not trash. But anyway.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please don't tell me you call it a garage.
Yeah.
A garage?
No,
A garage?
It's
No,
a
no.
Yeah.
garage.
Okay. All right. Cool. So you are a
Yeah,
little
no.
bit.
He's not. He doesn't have the high English like the Rhine and spine lies mindly on. But no, he actually says some things correctly.
Yeah.
About
Not all.
about half the time. Half the time.
I can course correct. I have enough American friends and relatives actually where I can actually flip between the different pronunciations pretty cleanly. But when you're looking at what's happening here, I could actually see Texas confiscating the Corvette. I think he's going to probably have to pay out the Lambo because I think he's on the sliding scale there where he's damaged it so much that I think it's damaged more than it's worth to fix it.
Yeah. So
So a total. And whether or not his insurance will outright pay for it, because remember, he was street racing, which
No,
often
they're not paying for it.
they're not
They've
paying
already,
for anything.
I almost guarantee he's already gotten letters from him that say we're denying any coverage.
Yeah.
you
Right.
did some policy exclusion by street racing. So
Yeah.
I'm sure that's already happened.
Yeah. So he's gone from leasing a Lambo and owning a vet to probably having no vehicles is what my guess is going to be
And no
here.
money.
And then no money as a result. So I think that'll be a really interesting scenario for him in terms of a life lesson, some other things. And then also in addition to that, I also think for this young man, it's going to be an incredible test in terms of who his friends really are.
Yeah.
The important piece here is going to be how many of those dudes are going to say, man, we made a dumb choice and we put you in a bad spot and we put ourselves in a bad spot. And we shouldn't do that again, and we should be the ones to be there on the right side of things for you in the future. How many of those dudes were in that crew, and how many of those dudes were not?
yeah, and Kenna does work for USAA, so he can. He's my expert, like Gibbons is the lawyer here.
Yeah.
My burner's back.
You're burnt. Love it.
LaRock.
So, anyways, that's kind of all I want to cover on that. I didn't really want to cover a ton, but I do think it was really important to kind of course correct a couple of the things that needed to be course corrected on that issue. And I agree with all assessments at this point. We're not going to know anything until he's, before a judge, in a couple months' time. So I think this is the last you probably heard of the situation. I don't think this is going to be coming up again. I think he's intentionally going to be hiding away from the media based on his lawyer's advice. I don't think that we should be judging him for that. That is his legal advice. And I think that we should be respectful of the fact that he's listening to his counsel. And I think that's an important thing. I think too many fans, especially of other teams, like, the dude's not saying anything. What an absolute, X, Y, and Z.
He's doing the right
I'll
thing.
just blankly say
Shut
now,
up.
never talk to police without an attorney, regardless of any involvement you have.
Right.
Because I used to do stuff for the Midwest Innocence Project. Let me tell you, we had, I think, 3 cases of people that got released after 30 plus years. And, it all started when I'm talking to the cops without an attorney because they thought I didn't do anything wrong. Not to say that happens all the time, but just don't.
Just don't. Yeah, I agree.
It's bad.
Yeah. So anyways, that's all I want to cover on that real quick. So getting over to your Kansas City Chiefs into some more positive news, your roster and what you're going to need to do with it. And if we're going to be honest, what we just spoke about will likely actually have some implications, I think, in terms of the draft now. And if we're going to be honest, it probably wouldn't have if this incident did not occur.
Yeah.
right? I think that's fair.
No, for sure. Yeah, I think we talked about that last week. That I'm sure heading into before all the Rice stuff happened, they were thinking we could maybe go wide receiver in the first round, but we don't have to. I think that the mindset certainly changed a little bit with that. But from the whole roster and people they've signed, I mean, they don't. It's not like they have a whole lot of glaring holes because they, for the most part, re-signed almost everyone that was, on the roster last year, outside of I think four guys that were decent contributors. So it's not like they have to look anywhere for a serious rebuild in terms of they're missing an elite type player at that position group. But I do think in terms of the
illusion is broken.
I was like, what happened to the skyline, dude? This guy's a phony.
This guy's a phony.
Oh my God.
You're not on a penthouse?
I'm like so upset. I want my money back that I contributed to this channel.
All these people we fooled.
Dang it. Yeah.
Hey, I am really at Squid's house. This is real. Okay. I don't know about that.
I don't think anyone was questioning that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. So all you people that and then you have these fakers. Let's see if I can get. Yeah, I can do it with 2 fingers. Then these fakers that obscure all the crap that's behind them because they're in the penitentiary.
Yeah.
Most
yeah. I'm actually in prison. They just let me do this every Wednesday.
Yeah.
But back to the Chiefs here. I think that the 3 biggest positions to focus on for the draft, and I don't know if it's really in any particular order, but I'd say it's definitely wide receiver, left tackle, and a cornerback. And because I mean they still got people in the wide receiver room that were contributors last year. So I don't, and I think this is a pretty deep wide receiver class. So that's why I think that they don't necessarily have to do it in the first round unless some guy that they absolutely love and think would fit well in the system falls to them or they can move up. But I think that's kind of the same mindset with the other 2 groups I mentioned as well, because sure, they lost Snead, but they got McDuffie, who, was a first-team All-Pro last year and, certainly has the chops to step up and probably take over some of Snead's role. But then they definitely need to find someone to either fill in behind or help, let McDuffie play in the slot a little more. But at the same time, I don't know that they need to, surely do that in the first round. And the same goes with the left tackle because
50%, that's a low figure. Try about 85, 90.
Yeah. Salty.
True.
50% of his hands covered with rings too, but hey.
I'm sorry, I gotta pick my nose here.
But
there you go.
Same with left.
Here's a booger for you. There you go. That's a Super Bowl booger just for you there.
I was gonna say Booger's normally on the sideline making stupid comments.
Oh, dude. Yeah.
I didn't know Jack was a 49ers fan. He's out there digging for gold.
But the same I think can be said with left tackle too, in that while it is a need, the guy that was their left tackle last year I think was lowest of the lows in terms of PFF grades. So it's not like that they are losing an elite pass blocker that they got to make up for. And the one thing I will praise the front office is they've kind of already planned ahead for some of these gaps and needs by drafting people, in these past 2 years. Because, I don't think they need to focus on the D-line early because, one, they brought Chris Jones back and they've invested first-round picks and edge rushers the past 2 years and re-signed everyone else. So while they certainly will need to start thinking about incumbent replacement to Chris Jones, I don't think that they need to do that now. and the same can be said for Kelsey in terms of, finding a new tight end. But everywhere else, I mean, they've spent early draft capital in these past three drafts on bringing people in. So, that's why I say that I don't know that there's a one superior need over any of those other two position groups that I talked about. And I think that they, are going to be able to kind of just see who falls and, take best available out of those three groups without necessarily having to move up to get a wide receiver to be sure they got someone, or, same for a left tackle or a corner. But I think that out of the, 22 groups they can choose from, those are the three they're going to focus on early. And I hope that they do too.
So when you look at left tackle, wide receiver, and tight end, and cornerback, because those are really your four groups, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Which of those four, in terms of specific position groups, do you think you're most likely to spend a first round on?
I think corner or receiver, honestly.
Okay.
And I'd say left tackle, but I don't know if the front office even views that as something they need, because they drafted Wanye Morris last year. He started, I think, 3 or 4 games and played pretty meaningful snaps and didn't look bad. And, I mean, he was a kind of a tweener going into the draft last year. I was a tweener. He was being, on a good day, considered up, late first, mid second, and they got him in the third, kind of similar to Creed Humphrey, that
right.
Fluctuated around and overall just a good solid lineman. So, I think with that, they might not view left tackle as such a glaring need as me, the outsider looking in, does. And that's why I think it'd be either corner or wide receiver, just because those are the two where you look at like, okay, yeah, I mean, we have McDuffie, but then who else behind that's really proven, when last year we had 2 proven corners, and same with, yeah, we don't know what's happening with Rice, but outside of that, we have Kelsey, and then, I mean, we got rid of Valdez-Scantling. We have Sky Moore, who for some reason they keep talking about will get involved. They just came out with a whole bunch of Andy Reid coach speak on Kadarius Toney and how much faith they have in him. So, looking at corner and receiver, those are the two that you're like, I don't feel as good about not spending early draft capital on someone in that position, especially because I think that there's going to be 1 or 2 like fairly solid corners and receivers that probably had a mid first round grade that are going to drop down, into that, and they're going to have sort of a good, I mean, this receiver class I said is insanely deep, and I think very realistically they're looking at a Troy Franklin, a Brian Thomas, both of the Texas receivers, and McConkey all right there at 32. I mean, those are all
Brian Thomas would be pretty insane for you guys.
Brian Thomas would be pretty sick. But
if he fell to you guys at 32, that would just be disheartening.
But all of those names, I mean, I think all of us would be fine with our team drafting any of them. And I think there's a pretty good likelihood that, I mean, that's what, 5 guys I named, at least 4 of them are going to be right around, either right at 32 or in striking distance to, trade some late day pick to move up. And I think the same could be said with corner, because you got like Kool-Aid, whose draft stock's dropping because of injury stuff. You got Cooper DeJean, who, might fall just because he's white. Who knows?
Pardon me. Do you have the Cooper DeJean?
This is
DeJean.
The gray DeJean.
The Cooper DeJean.
But yeah, I mean, so those are the 2 groups that I think are the deeper ones, and I think that they can. Those are the ones they should target. One, because there's going to be a plethora of people to pick from, just because numbers game, people are going to fall, and at the same time, they don't have to, do what they did to move up for a McDuffie or a Mahomes, and move a next year's first to move up, or give up a second round. And so I just think that's with the way I think that this board will go and just how deep those two positions are, I think that's the two that they should look at to not kind of mortgage any more of the future on anything.
Yeah, so sorry, Robert, I think the Chargers are in a not as good position as the Chiefs are. But I
don't think any team is realistically.
No, but
yeah, maybe the Eagles, but that's all.
Right,
yeah.
At some
but
point.
the important thing here is when you look at key positions, and this is what I mean by what I'm saying here, is the Chiefs have their quarterback locked down, and they have a good percentage of the rest of their roster kind of solidified. Right. Pass rushers on the outsides. Chris Jones, like the dominant defensive, best in the league at this point. Like he's like, the best, right? So, okay, great. So, but then I would argue that the Chargers are in a similar position to the Chiefs in some regard when it comes to certain positions.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Like for example,
quarterback
Herbert isn't going anywhere. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
And you have certain other positions.
Line's pretty solidified.
Like you have key dudes that are in key spots that are just not going anywhere.
Slater.
So when it comes to looking what you need, wide receiver is obviously an important one, which is very similar to the Chiefs.
Tackle,
so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. Now, the difference between you and the Chiefs is you're in a position to actually get yourself a tackle.
Right.
Well,
we could be in a possible position to get ourselves both. Realistically, if we do trade back from the 5th pick, and I know this is just like
no.
You don't think so? You don't think the Vikings want to trade that 11th and 23rd pick to move up to 5?
They may be willing to, but the question is the dude. So for the chat, I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, and I'm actually quite excited if there's a whole bunch of people that think I'm wrong. So here's what I'm going to throw.
Yeah, but you always are wrong. I keep telling you that.
Really? How many times have I been wrong?
Warriors.
How many times you've been wrong? I
pretty much called my Broncos record.
You've been wrong in this show already. You said it's pronounced to boot. See, there you go.
Really? Well, look,
you get
miles per hour, okay? We'll agree to disagree.
Yeah.
We'll agree to disagree. The only measurement in the states that I actually agree with is feet and inches, because who the hell wants to use centimeters? But
that's what she said.
Thank you.
Yeah, but this is also true, Captain. But at the end of the day, yes, I do pronounce things correctly, which is the British pronunciation. Even though I still wish I was in the States. Now, the whole point here is, do the Vikings want to make that move? And this is where my caveat for you, actually both Alex and you, and a little less so I think for Captain, because I think his team is in a better spot for what they need in terms of obtaining what they need.
Thank you. Can you tell everybody in the world that, because everybody wants to jump up to
So I actually think that the Raiders are kind of right around where they probably want to be in order to build up the roster that they're looking for. The problem that the Chargers and the Chiefs have right now, and it may not necessarily be as big of a problem for the Chiefs, but it certainly, I think, is a problem for the Chargers, is you want a really top-tier wide receiver and you need a really top-tier left tackle. And you need both
right
of
tackle.
them. Or sorry, well, right tackle. But you need both of them.
See, he was wrong again. There you go.
Mama's wrong again.
You need both of them to be truly competitive to get to any distance within the playoffs and eventually get to the dance, right?
Correct.
And Mama said that the reason why they have a it's because they have lots of teeth and they can't breast. Well, Mama's wrong again.
Yeah.
So
there's your movie drop. We had
fantastic.
Yep.
And of course, when I heard that voice, I just kept on thinking, Have you seen my stapler? Have you seen my baseball?
It's the red swing line.
Yeah. So when you look at what you guys need 2 premium positions, and I mean legitimate premium positions. You let your number 1 wideout for eons with the Chargers go. Fair enough. He kind of deserved it, so I think you did right by him. If I'm going to be honest, you did right by him.
Yeah, I think we did.
Then I'm not even blaming you guys. I'm just saying, like, you did right by him. Good for you. And you need a right tackle rather. So you need 2 premiums positions that are typically like the best of the best. If we're going to be honest, in those spots are found kind of between picks number 1 and really when you start getting down to pick 12, the answer is probably not. Okay, like we're just being honest. And then when you talk about where the quarterbacks are probably going to go, they're going to probably go between 1 to 7 or 1 to 5 or 1 to 6, right? In that kind of general block.
Yeah, those top 4 are definitely going to go probably in that top 7 range.
And that 1 to 7 range, right?
Yeah.
So you got those guys gone, which then puts the other position groups in that other block of picks. And that's where I think you guys are going to struggle, and that's I think where you guys are going to have issues. Is I think there's going to be such a run on certain position groups in this draft.
I believe so as well, but
you're not going to get who you're looking for.
The reason why I disagree with you and why normally I would agree with you that getting a top wide receiver and a top tackle is borderline impossible if you're not doing it both within the top 10. My reasoning to that, why I feel like we'd be able to do it this year, is those are the 2 most prominent positions in the draft this year. It's wide receiver and it's tackle. So if there was ever a year for us to do this, to move back from 5, because you don't need a quarterback, obviously, and it's more than likely 4 of those quarterbacks are going to go, like we said, top 6, top 7. So you can realistically trade back. There are teams that are looking to trade up. The Vikings 100% need to get another quarterback because they need to keep Justin Jefferson happy. Now, if they want to trade him, that's throwing everything else out the water. Now that I think that would be a smarter move for them to just reset completely. It didn't work with Justin Jefferson. Kirk Cousins got in. Like, you just got to reset. Let Justin Jefferson, trade him, go get a haul for him because you're going to get a haul. Like, let's be honest. He's the best receiver in football. It's not even close. You're going to get a haul.
That is some quality H2O.
Yeah.
So you know, the Vikings are definitely the Vikings are definitely looking to either reset or let's go get our quarterback so we can keep our stud wide receiver happy in here. That's why I say the Vikings. As far as trading back and why I say 11 and 23 is I feel like getting the tackle at 11 will be the move because the wide receiver class is so much deeper. Like, and you know, I had mentioned this to Alex about the Chiefs drafting Brian Thomas. If the Chargers got Brian Thomas with the 21 or that 23rd pick, I'm A-okay with that. A-okay with that. It's not Malik Neighbors. It's not one of the top 3 in Harrison, Neighbors, or Dunze. But you're 100%. This chat's going great.
Zach. What was that?
Oh man!
Be like Tiger Woods and his daddy.
Bobby Boucher came back at halftime and the Bourbons won the Super Bowl. Yeah.
And who was his father's name? Roberto.
Yeah.
You know
full
it.
Circle,
you know
dude.
It comes full circle. It's a fantastic movie. Yeah. Anyways, getting back to the draft. So yeah, I feel like that's the best position for the Chargers. Yeah, I would love Marvin Harrison. I would love Malik Neighbors at 5.
Sorry, who's coach defense?
Dang.
Somebody who has a YouTube channel, right?
Oh, I've heard of that guy. I've heard of that guy.
Do we know what his channel is?
Yeah, Lockdown Defense.
He's got this dude named Kurt that goes on the show sometimes too. He loves getting poked and prodded by the chat.
He is a pretty big deal.
It's what they call a trophy fish. So yeah, kind of a big deal.
kind of a big deal. But yeah, as far as what position, like you said, Rich, I think tackle is definitely the biggest position of need. We definitely need a wide receiver one, but there's just so many in this draft class that I also feel like you could double dip and draft another one later on if you were to go the trade back route and get one in the.
Just don't double dip the chip, because that means you put your whole mouth into the dip.
Pause.
Okay, all right, hold on. I know you'd probably be able to tell us a lot about putting your whole mouth on it, Kevin, but I really don't want to hear about that right now.
Says the guy that has no clue what the hell I just did. He has no clue. Exactly. He has no clue where the line comes from because he's an idiot.
Captain, the only response to what was just said was California. And that's all I need to say.
He was just here. He can't even say that.
I'm just here. I'm still here.
I can say that actually.
You can. He can.
I'm still here. And I went blazing through the city. Do I get a phone call? Do I get an email? Do I even get a nudge? No, because mommy wouldn't let him come out to play.
Oh, give me a break. You didn't even tell us you were here.
Oh, really? Did I get an email? Did I get a text? You don't follow my Instagram or Facebook, where I do a almost daily, where's Captain Jack Waldo update.
If but nothing else, ladies and gentlemen, I am entertained by the conversation.
Yeah.
But anyways, moving quickly along back to football here. I understand with what you're saying, Robert. You're basically you're trying to summary. You're basically saying, hey, look, this is a deep draft in position groups that the Chargers need, and your thought process is that you could probably nab a couple given the depth in that position.
Right.
The other flip side to that, though, is with the depth of that position, there is the potential actually that the quarterbacks that everyone is predicting that are going to go super early won't. And
I don't know.
But again, so think about what the drop off is between.
You said it the correct way.
Yeah, I told you I can flip flop between the different pronunciations.
He's bilingual.
I'm bilingual when it comes to American and Canadian. When you look at the top tier within the draft, right? But when you look at the top tier within the draft, what are your top 2 or 3 left tackles? Well, the top 1 or 2 are like elite.
They don't need a left tackle though.
Yeah. No, but I'm saying that's the premium picks, which is your top tier right tackle, your top tier left tackle, your quarterback, your edge rusher, which is actually being diminished recently in recent years in terms of value.
Yeah.
We've seen those edge guys fall further than they ever have. So if we're going to be honest, you need to call a duck when it comes to that regard as well. And then you're seeing the wideouts go higher, but then not get the second contracts with the teams that they're at. They're getting the 5th-year options and they're getting kicked to the curb, which is what I predicted several years ago. Actually, Captain, I think I may have actually done that on your channel, where I said publicly that as these wideouts become more and more polished as they're coming out of college, teams are going to be more and more reluctant to pay the second tier from the top tier, the big money contracts, and they're going to let them walk. And I think we're starting to see that now. We're starting to see the Michael Thomases. We're starting to see, even on my team, like the Cortland Suttons and that kind of stuff. The teams are like, no, we're only willing to give you value contracts because we believe we can get a guy in the draft that can fill in for you either at or close to, and it's not worth $20 million because we can put a better roster together by giving that dude like 2 and then saving the other 18 and then building out the rest of the roster because I think that's better for our team. So I think that's what we're starting to see now. But
when did if the Chargers drafted a cornerback or a wide receiver who was high, wouldn't he immediately go on the NFL drug program?
Yes.
No. You're thinking of the Raiders. Yeah, you're thinking of Raiders players. How many players have you guys had arrested over the last decade? Because the Chargers have had 0 actually. I don't know if you knew that. Chargers are the only team in the NFL to not have anybody be arrested over the past decade.
Yeah, that's because they greased the San Diego and Los Angeles police departments.
It's an inside job.
Well, yeah, I can get away with a lot of crap too if I pay enough money. That's what you have lawyers.
Well, it also is dependent on where you live too, right? For example, we just finished talking about the fact that Texas is we'll call it more principled state when it comes to the law, who are more likely to make an example out of someone who has done something that violates the law, whereas other states believe that a whole host of things should be legalized, including certain drugs. So therefore, they're less likely to arrest someone over, I don't know, smoking weed, for example, or those sorts of things, which are likely to be looked the other way when you're in California or LA, or San Diego, depending on where you are. Either way, the point remains the same, which is depending on your state, you're going to end up being treated differently. And by the way, that's no different than here in Canada either. If you're in Alberta, you're going to get the book thrown at you. If you're in BC, they're going to say, "What's weed? I have no idea what you're talking about. Isn't that what people smoke every day?" Right? Like that's the difference between A and B. You know what I mean? And so I think that's an important thing to differentiate, is that in each state handles things differently, and certain states are going to be more likely to crack down on certain things, no pun intended, when we're talking about drugs, than other things. And it is what it is. And frankly, if you're going to be honest, and I hope you are going to be here, California is one of the more liberal / flexible states in the US.
Yeah, we suck.
Yeah.
I hate California. California sucks.
No, but my point is, when it comes to drugs and things like that, it is very open.
Yeah,
lenient. Very lenient. Yes.
The Raiders were also in California for a large stretch of time. So, I mean,
that is true.
This is true.
You're not wrong.
This is true. This is true.
It actually originated from here in LA.
This is true. But anyways, so
Cap, I know it's difficult for you, sir. You got to hit the unmute button.
Did he just say that the Raiders originated in LA? Did you just say that?
I did. That
is why we have to watch what schmucks say. Okay? The Raiders.
Wait, so I'm schmuck, he's schmug?
Yeah, he's smug, you're a schmuck. And the difference is that the Chargers originally were from LA.
Yeah.
Were from LA. Because Barron Hilton, and by the way, the chick that had the little dog that had the sex video, that her daddy, who owns the Hilton friend, had the Chargers in LA, right? And then the next year he moved to San Diego.
Okay?
Right. So the Raiders were in the Bay Area. Then they went to LA. Then they went back to the Bay, and now they're over to Las Vegas. So get your right.
My mistake. Yes.
Sorry, where was the first? Where did you start?
He said that the Raiders originated in LA, and I jumped all over that.
Oh no, he said California.
No, he said LA.
I said California.
Oh, sorry. I know one.
There's no added to it.
Sorry.
He tried to sprinkle a little.
Remember, smug and schmuck. Get the shit right. Okay?
Smug was right.
So anyways, with regards to your position groups, Robert, I think that depending on where the draft goes, I think you could either be probably correct or dead wrong. Like so wrong, because I think that what we've seen from recent years, especially the last 5, is there are huge runs on certain position groups that occur in the draft.
Right. Well, this is why I feel like the Chargers, so potentially, let's hypothetically say, like you say, that the QBs don't make a run the first 5-6 picks, right? Let's hypothetically say that QBs start to fall. That, I feel like, would even be more of a reason. Like, for whatever reason, let's say the Commanders and the Patriots don't go after a QB for whatever reason.
Oh, they
that's
are.
But
Yeah,
they are.
They
are. They 100% they are. But whatever. Let's just play. We'll play devil's advocate for a minute. Let's say they don't. Right. Let's say they pass on it. That is even putting us in an even better position for people to want to trade up with us because those QBs that nobody thought would be available at 5 are going to be available. So you better be damn sure Chargers are going to have the phone ringing from the Vikings, from maybe even the Jets. I wouldn't be surprised if the Jets try to make a move at their quote unquote future at QB. Now they're probably not as much because they're just going all in this year with Rodgers, and as much as they should really take O-line, I feel like if Bowers is available to them at 10, they'll go for him because they just want the shiny new object and completely disregarding what is the reason why that team suffered last year, and it was because the O-line was so trash. But that I feel like that just sets it up even better for us. That if there's not a run on QBs early on, if Marvin Harrison gets taken, if the tackles start going, I'm more than okay with that too, because it just means that we're probably going to get even more for the 5th pick than we would if somebody was to just move up to, get the back end of those top 4 QBs we were talking about.
Sure. Fair enough.
I think there's only 2 answers for what LA Chargers do, and it is
wide
Marvin
receiver
Harrison Jr. or Malik Neighbors.
Or Malik Neighbors, 100%. Or you trade back. Or you trade back. Realistically, that's kind of where we're at. And we talked about, we discussed our position groups in our past shows and kind of talking about how, what we should do. And the draft really, I firmly believe you could totally be right, Rich. You could totally be right in that the QBs don't go and it's just people start going best position available. But I just think, and we've seen it in so many drafts in years past where you need a QB. Like bottom line, you need a QB in this league to win. You're not going to win if you don't have that guy at QB. And a lot of teams die by the hands of these QBs they swear by because you kind of have to. You have to put your faith and your franchise in the hands of these QBs. And it's, and I had a running back for a position that I thought we could target to, but that was never going to be in the early rounds. That was always going to be day 2 or later. Yeah, rounds 2 or 3, 100%. Now that we just signed J.K. Dobbins today, I feel like that's even pushed back even further now. We probably still would go after a running back, but now I wouldn't see us doing it. Yeah, no, it'd be like 4th round, 5th round at this point maybe. If Corum fell to us at the 4th round, I'd still take him at this point if he fell in the 4th round, but I wouldn't take him earlier than that.
You are though, because your coach is so in love with him, he's going to grab him in the 3rd round.
No, he's not. I love that everybody tries to make this like everybody knows that Harbaugh's just going to draft Michigan players. Yeah, he's definitely going to draft a couple of his guys. I'm not saying that. I'm not saying we're going to go all our 7, 8, 9 picks, whatever it is, and he's not going to take any guys from Michigan.
No,
but
he's going to take at least 1, maybe 2.
Yeah, he'll take 1 or 2, but I don't think it's going to be – I also think he's not going to reach on his draft board. I think he is the type of coach to where he understands, I love my guys, and my guys are going to play great for me under my system, but I'm also not going to reach and go over some of these other elite talents because I want to get my guys. Will he do that later on?
Robert, the other piece you're missing is Harbaugh runs closer to a pro offense at the college level than most other college coaches did. So my only counter to that, Captain, what you just said about the running back in particular, is Harbaugh knows better than most because of his previous time in the NFL that running backs, they wear down pretty quickly just because it is such a taxing position on the body because they're getting none of the rules favor them at all.
No.
At all, ever. None of the rules help them whatsoever.
Nope.
And the value of the position from a financial perspective has been, pretty severely diminished. And so you're getting lesser athletes at the position than you once did as a result of the value at that position. So you're basically getting those that know that they can almost do nothing else because that's what they're really good at. And they can maximize their value, but they're still not going to get the upper echelon that they otherwise would. And so I think what you're going to end up with Harbaugh is he's going to know how much he used his running back, and he used his running back a tremendous amount.
A lot.
Yeah. And that will not help at the NFL level because the guys at the NFL are going to be stronger, bigger, and faster. He's going to be younger. he's going to be looking for a guy in the draft that reminds him of his former running back, but one that was not used as heavily as his former running back. And I think that's going to be the unsung thing that someone like Harbaugh, we saw similar things with some of the other college coaches. Pete Carroll did the same thing when he first came into the league as well. He analyzed the college rosters that were out there, and most people thought that he was going to go full on, homerism. And he kind of did a bit of a wide spray across the college ranks, but he went across the college ranks and he was largely successful because he knew the dudes that were there better than most other coaches. I think we're going to see a little bit of that from Harbaugh, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. And that's just, I hate that.
I know you do. I can hear the vinegar.
I hate it. But I do think that that's what gives him a leg up over other coaches.
100%.
Is that he has that firsthand experience because college coaches are so much more involved in the recruitment process.
And that's why I feel like in this draft,
information at his disposal.
This draft in particular is going to be Harbaugh. Like, this is where you're going to see Harbaugh really build the foundational pieces of this team.
Harbaugh.
He's gonna hardball.
This is where you'll, like, I feel like this particular draft class, this is why I'm also even more with the agreement of, or I'm even like more on board with draft or with trading back, is because he has firsthand.
Exactly that.
Yeah,
exactly that.
That sounds horrible out of context, but yes, that's exactly what you're going for. Jesus Christ. Anyways, this is why I feel like he wants to trade back even more so, is because he wants to get as much talent that he had firsthand experience watching as he possibly can. Yeah, it would be awesome to get the top ranked position of any of the wide receivers of the O-line, Marvin Harrison or Joe Alt, or I guess Fuaga would be our top O-line.
Fuaga should be your top pick 100%.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah, so for tackles, yeah. So Marvin Harrison or Fuaga, you obviously are going to have, or will most likely have, your choice of one of those at 5 should you stay. But there's just so much more value in trading back, because he's seen all these players play firsthand, and he knows what they can do, and he knows which guys are going to translate to the NFL at a much quicker, in a much quicker time than some of these other guys who might, he might still like, but it's like, okay, they're going to need a little bit more time to develop. We can wait on these guys, and that's where all these. Like I said, Tom Telesco was never able to draft depth. It was, as a Charger fan, you would watch day one of the draft, and then it was just pray for the rest of the time, because you just never know.
Bag over your head and wait till.
Yeah, no, seriously, yeah, you would be front and center for the first pick. You'd be like, yeah, he's gonna nail the first round pick, and then it's like, all right, pack it in for the weekend, boys, because he's probably not gonna take anybody worth starting, if we're being totally honest.
Wait a second, wasn't Spiller a later round pick?
Is he starting? Did he ever start? Did he ever make the backup position, actually?
You say for depth, Spiller was a damn good depth piece.
Damn good? I mean, he was all right. I don't think he was what you're making it up to be.
So Captain, here's
Shut up.
Hello, simmer down. Let's just simmer down, my man. Simmer down.
All caps, aggressive.
Just take some deep breaths. I promise it'll be okay. So Captain, here's the deal, right? What Robert's trying to get at is I know my Broncos inside and out backwards, but this is where I'm going to use as an example here. Spiller did not actually make the level that C.J. Anderson made for the Denver Broncos. Okay, this is kind of what Robert's getting at here, which is C.J. Anderson was an undrafted free agent. No, C.J. Anderson was an undrafted free agent who was literally Bill Belichick came up to him after the game. It was like, I wish you were on my team.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, he was that darn good, and he was a UDFA. right? And you had there was a few other guys that other teams had picked up. The Broncos have actually had a unique ability in that kind of 7th and late and UDFA to bring in some rather unique guys. Chris Harris Jr. is another example of that, who is, by all accounts, a pretty elite corner who is an undrafted free agent as well. Again, looking at dudes that we've been able to pull in that are starting talents in the later rounds. That's what Robert's basically getting at.
Yes.
And if you're not a starter or a depth piece for the entirety of your contract, as in, and by depth, Robert, I'm just putting words in your mouth, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, which is like as in the 1B or the number 2. Anything outside of the number 2 is just kind of a jag. And
right.
Frankly, any other guy in the next year's draft can fill in that position if we're going to be honest. So what's the point? That's that's what you're getting at.
And on top, yeah, absolutely. And to build on that too, that is, I wouldn't say it's sustainable, but you can definitely have some success doing that. You just got to have a damn good head coach. Yeah, and you got to have a damn good system in place, and everybody has to know their role, and you got to be like, everybody has to be locked in and knowing like, all right, I'm doing my job. Is everybody else doing their job? And everybody holds each other accountable.
So Robert, what you're talking about is the Patriots.
Exactly. Essentially.
When they were in their infancy, right?
The Patriot way.
Everyone was a cog. Everyone was that one piece that fit a certain element of the system.
Yes.
And there was a big board vision, and everyone just kind of fit that individual piece that was required.
And you had the one guy who was front and center of it all, the quarterback who led his team through everything, no matter what mistakes the team made. You knew the quarterback was going to not always bail you out, but you knew that with Brady on the field, we always got a shot. Regardless of what we have at the other positions, as long as Tom Brady is on the field with us, we have a shot to win this game. And that was just something that was never going to happen with Staley. Staley couldn't even look up at Belichick. He's just so far ahead of him. He's not even in the same universe as him.
Right.
And so
I just want to make sure that we cover off some initial discussions from each of the rosters here. I'm going to cover my Broncos last. I'm going to throw over to Captain real quick if we can.
I get a chance to talk because the kid's finally done. Take a breath now, Junior. Okay.
So Captain, when we look at your Raiders roster and we look ahead to the draft.
But before we get that, one of the reasons why I've been off mic is that I am going to turn over to Raider Squid, who has some interesting things to say about. He has. Yeah. Oh, you gonna do your head down?
Yeah. No. What's going on? What's going on? You guys hear me?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Good, man. You're good. How are you doing?
What's going on?
How you
I
doing?
know I met Rich. At least I've talked to him on here before.
Yeah. You see.
Are you able to shut the blinds behind you?
Oh, you can hear that.
See it.
Look, Captain, I've never been told that I'm quiet.
What?
I've never been told that I'm quiet. So I'm not surprised.
Yeah, I do have the volume up a lot.
Yeah.
So I give you for a that's the camera. I give you Raider Squid to you, Roberto, because he came in and I'm like, oh, really? So just for you, schmuck.
You shouldn't have.
Yeah, just for you, schmuck.
Well, Captain, we have some folks in the chat here that are excited to hear from Raider Squid there. So let's go ahead and have them jump in, and we'll go from there.
Go ahead, Squid, and tell everybody those wonderful.
Real quick, you were talking about, was it Robert? You're talking about stats and who's been arrested. It's crazy what 2 seconds of searching tells you. You were not. We're plus or minus, and again, this is off of 2 seconds of searching.
2 seconds.
2 seconds of searching 3 different sites. We're sitting across 32 teams. Hey, Broncos, congratulations. You're plus or minus number 1 in the league with about 47 arrests since 2000. Again, not 100% the statistician. Chiefs, hey, congratulations. You guys are about 7th or 8th in the league, sitting around 33 since 2000. Again, not. And then us, and surprisingly, the Chargers are around 19th-ish with about, where's my number? 25. It's not crazy. I mean, I don't know Charger history. I know we have one egregious big arrest that happened. So yeah, Joan, if you come in talking stats, please have something ready to go.
Oh, I had it ready to go. I said in the last decade. I said in the last decade, I was not wrong. In the last decade, we have not had anybody be arrested, and you can look that up too. You can look up those stats too. In the last decade,
Look it up.
we're the only We're the only team in the league to not have anybody arrested the last 10 years. The only player that ever got involved even slightly with the law was J.C. Jackson missing a court date and him failing to appear in court. That was the only thing, and he ended up being released before the season ended anyways. So
yeah, the great J.C. Jackson,
who you guys now have as the GM who signed that contract for him. So congratulations, enjoy him.
No,
I know he's going to do great things for you guys.
We don't have J.C. Jackson schmuck.
No, you have Tom. Yeah, you have Tommy Telescope.
He's saying the general manager will sign the contract.
I know.
Okay,
I know, Rich, but I wanted to make sure that everybody else did.
I was in the impression Telesco didn't run contracts. That was all held at your guys' level. The contracts weren't in his lane. But again, I don't know Charger history. I don't care about it. So.
Oh yeah, they definitely weren't in his lane. You could see the contracts that he would sign, and they just weren't good ones. He's the reason. Wait, what?
What he's saying is it wasn't his purview.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, yeah.
He's saying he didn't oversee the contract. He didn't oversee the signing of them. Exactly. He didn't oversee the doling out of the contracts or the terms. He's saying that
coming over to us, he's not going to do that anyways.
So then, why did he go into our locker room apologizing to all the players for trading and signing for J.C. Jackson? Like, that was a thing that happened. He literally went into the locker room and apologized to all the DBs and all the. Yeah, exactly. You're the GM. You're responsible for who gets a contract and who doesn't. That's part of one of your jobs.
I guess that what we're saying is that he did sign him, he did trade him, but he didn't dole out what his exact contract was.
I don't what I thought, but either way, he's not handling contracts with us.
Yeah, well, regardless.
And again, he isn't for us. He isn't the money guy.
Nope.
He is the personnel guy. Okay.
I mean, that really couldn't give you.
Actually, that'll be interesting though. That'll be interesting. So, as an example, what will be fascinating is if,
as Rick Samarano says, Spanos was in charge of salaries, cap space, not Tom Telesco, and Spanos is the reason why the friggin' Chargers aren't in San Diego anymore,
where they belong. 100%.
I agree with that. You're not going to hear me fighting here saying that they belong in LA. I wish they stayed in San Diego,
right.
But
so what will be interesting though is when you talk about roster construction. What will be interesting is if Telesco has had kind of the aggressive part of his role gutted from him with the Raiders, which is I want that guy because he's going to do these things. It will be interesting to see if the guys that he's not able to obtain because the contracts cannot be dished out accordingly. It will be interesting to see where the roster lands.
But that's what we just saw, though. Rich, excuse me for cutting in, but letting Jacobs go was, to me, prime example of what the math didn't. I love Josh Jacobs. I don't think you're going to meet an honest Raider fan that doesn't have high praises for Josh Jacobs. Great human being. I wish he would have stayed. But the math didn't add up, so he had to go. And it hurts to say. I wish he wasn't so
right. But and to counter it, I actually think your team's going to suffer as a result of that. There is very few people that you're going to meet that is as big of a Josh Jacobs fan as I am. First off, I'm a Broncos fan, and I saw what he did to my Denver Broncos on the field, and it was not pretty. Okay, like he was that good. He was that guy.
A lot of teams.
Well, sorry, not just my team, but especially my team, because his best games
were untouched for like 70 yards against the team.
Right, but his best games were against my Denver Broncos, and you can look that up as a statistic. Like, I think the Broncos may have been his best team that he played against, and that is outside of simply calculating the numbers. He just simply ran really well against the Broncos. I think that may come back to bite the Raiders in the rear, because having a bell cow who has been who's proven, and he's shown he can do it for large carries over many years, or at least several years. I think that may come back to bite you, because you're going to have to find a guy to replace that production, because having a running game forces the other team to be honest. And Jacobs certainly did that, especially against the Broncos and other teams. And so you're going to have a guy that can actually force teams to play against the run. Right now, you're still trying to find that guy that can replace that production until proven otherwise. That doesn't mean you don't have a guy on your roster now that can do it. It means that no one else on your roster has proven he can replace Jacobs.
Well, I was going to say, I kind of like what Zamir White did the last 4 games of the year, showing that what he is capable of when Jacobs was hurt. Okay, again, that's only a 4-game.
That's a small sample size, but yeah, sure.
It's small sample size, for sure. But I will say, I also know what Zamir White did in college for Georgia, and he was actually held back because Jacobs was very reticent to give him any shine, because he knew that once he was on the field and doing the things that he was capable of as a Bulldog, that he well, hey, this guy actually can be almost just as fast and as brutish that Jacobs wasn't, because his career in Alabama was a RBC, and he actually was the man with the Raiders. And that's why, he wanted that big contract. He had a decent contract, which he negotiated. But when the Packers come in and swoop down and give him an exorbitant amount over what the Raiders say, that's why, as Squid was saying, Tuss was like, yeah, no, hey, good on. Kind of like what the Garglers did. I haven't used the Gargler phrase in a while. What the Garglers did with getting rid of their receiver, that he said, hey, good on you. Go chase the money and we'll replace you. But so we did. He said, hey, good on you, Josh. If that's the contract you want, hey, fair winds and following seas, man.
So is it fair to assume that you're going to want to go after running back?
But you don't owe. I've known you're honest when it comes to talking about your team and like the Raiders and the whole. Again, I've seen you enough where I respect, again, and I guess the other guys, your opinion when you're going to tell it how it is and what you see. But to Cotton's point, 100% with Josh, like it is what it is. It's that time, and it's just that whole. Again, I know this isn't the regime talk, but it feels different with AP in the building. 100%, a whole different attitude, a whole different. He knows his lane. I don't have to worry about him trying to do the GM's job or the fucking GM trying to do the coach's job. They have set in places. AP knows his weaknesses. He brings people in to fucking fill those voids with your Marvin Lewis's of the world being there to be. He said it in one of the videos he posted where it's everybody's got to work on themselves. I have to, and it starts with me. Getting people here to help me become a better coach. So that expectation, that he's going to demand from the players. He's going to look at himself and push his guys to be that guy. And now with fucking picking up, was it Wilkinson from the Dolphins?
Watch your ass.
So,
watch your ass.
Family show, my man.
Yeah. It's not my show.
Okay, my bad.
It's more.
So,
see, I told him.
So it's an exciting, and then tying back into what you guys are talking about with the draft.
Look, you're right. You have a new regime and a coach that's going to try to establish himself at the NFL. Andy Reid doesn't remember when he had to do that because it was so long ago. And Harbaugh proved himself and then wanted to prove himself kind of a level up by going back to college and taking his alma mater to, elevated heights again. And then now he's back in the NFL because he wanted to be, right? Like it is what it is. But with AP, he's got to prove himself to show that he can continuously elevate the team. What the challenge that the Raiders had last year is that under AP, if I'm not mistaken, and I might be, but correct me if I'm wrong, I think he had a 500 record. Is that correct?
I don't remember. I'm not going to lie.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe about.
I think he had about a 500 record. Yeah. So now the question is, And by the way, I don't think it's fair to put that record necessarily solely at AP's feet.
No,
Because by the
he
way,
still had an offensive coordinator
Correct.
that was not an offensive coordinator, which is why the offense suffered last year and was not up to par, because it was still McDaniel's cast-offs and scaled down playbook, which still sucked. So we were fighting with one hand behind our back. And I think, was it Ike Boy said that a team for babysitters? Well, I'll tell you what, I'll take a team that has Marvin Lewis, Joe Philbin, Tom Coughlin, amongst the crew of people that are contributing factors for a franchise, okay? Yeah, you guys got the bright, shiny object, like the Broncos had the bright, shiny object the year before in Sean Payton. Everybody was clamoring for that bright, shiny object, okay? Harbaugh is a bright, shiny object, but I will say that he has a shelf life of about 5-6 years, if that, and then the team just kind of they tune them out. It's not college, because in college you have the guys that are rolling through every 5 or 6 years.
I actually disagree with that for the same reason why I disagree with that for the same reason why I counter that with AP needs his own time to prove himself. And so I'll explain the different why I see I see similarities between the two. So AP needs to establish a vision, and he needs to install that vision, and he needs to get that vision put in place.
I got to cut you off, Rich, because he has a vision. His vision is the Raiders of old. That's why when he said we are going to go back to that, that's why when he really truly rolls around driving down the street in my 6'4", he's got a GD 6'4" that he's driving in Las Vegas with, okay? He has that mentality of the Raiders when they were in L.A., the dogs. And the one thing that I can say about AP is that he doesn't have coach speak. You know, he doesn't have the all of the oxymoronic, things that he's going to say. He's very true, and he's very real. And that's one of the reasons why the people and the players play for him, and that's why the defense got better when Graham was allowed to be what he wanted to be, and McDaniel put let me get it on camera. Put the thumb on Graham, and when AP allowed Graham to let that defense be what they wanted, they were remarkably that much better. Again, the offense had the issues because they had a guy who was a quarterbacks coach, young, that was using a playbook that everybody hated because it was McDaniel's playbook. They scaled it down, and they played just enough well for what was needed, but it wasn't the dynamic offensive playbook that other quote-unquote coordinators would come in. Now, obviously, Luke Getsy's not a name that is sparkly, twinkly, oh my God, he's the greatest OC in the world, but he did have a decent offense in Chicago, minus the fact that we didn't get Fields. Why? Because Fields would like, first read, second read, okay, I'm going to run. And that's why they said, well, the Raiders will go get Fields. No, the Raiders don't get Fields because that's exactly what they're going to be dealing with and the Steelers are going to be dealing with, which is why he's going to be the second string behind a certain quarterback that got released by the Broncos. But I know it's all convoluted, but I've been building up because, again, I haven't really said anything. And then coaches, or not coach, but Bishop's like, why don't you say anything, Captain? Why don't you say anything, Captain? Because I want to make sure that when I say it's actually somewhat coherent and true.
And I guess to your point that last year was Sean Payton's first year. So that's what you're saying, that he's trying to establish. He has the name. I mean, so does AP.
That's not what I'm saying at all, actually. And I've been cut off twice now when I'm trying to explain it. That's not what I'm saying whatsoever, actually. AP doesn't have an established record as a head coach, which is a much different position in the NFL than a position coach, than a defensive coordinator, than an offensive coordinator, or any other coaching position within the NFL. Because as a head coach, you are the general of the entire team, and the best head coaches, and I mean the very best head coaches, embrace that role as the general of the entire team, not just an individual side of the ball. and frankly, the ones that do the best, like that are recognized throughout the time, history and are in the Hall of Fame, et cetera, they honor that and they take that to the next level where they elevate other positions and other coaches beneath them who end up becoming head coaches, some of them succeeding and some of them not. AP still needs to prove himself that he can elevate himself above, whether it be a positional coach or even a coordinator position, to show that he can end up being in that general role and actually run a team with a specific vision. I'm sorry, it's just, it's, and yes, DZ, you're correct.
100%. That is literally Brandon Staley.
And I would actually argue that Brandon Staley never even showed himself and proved himself at the coordinator position well enough before he was promoted to a head coach, because he was still riding on the coattails of Vic Fangio, which is where he came from before he ended up getting elevated eventually into that head coach position. That's a completely different issue and different story for another podcast, which I'm happy to get into for those who are interested. But I digress. AP needs to show that he can be the general. He needs to show both Raider Nation. He needs to show all of you that he has a vision for not just this year, but next year and the year after.
But that's where, again, we're gonna go against each other. We're not going to agree, because clearly Raider Nation is behind what the vision that AP has preached from day one.
No. You're missing what I'm saying.
No, I get what you're saying. The big picture piece. I got you. I do. I promise. I understand what you're talking about. The whole organization as a whole.
For us,
it starts with getting leader of men, and everything that we've seen from AP establishes that core fundamental of, we're going to start here. We're going to have that energy, that Max Crosby energy, and go from there. Bringing in your Wilkinsons of the world and matching that go work mentality. Which again, I'm trying to get you guys back on track, talking about the draft and get into that piece of it. I want to believe in O'Connell, and if he wins the job, it means that he beat out Minshew, which I don't think is a horrible quarterback. People are freaking out about his contract, but he got paid good backup quarterback money. It wasn't. People made it seem like it was an extreme contract.
I think Minshew is your version of Stidham.
Say again.
Minshew is our version of Stidham.
Okay, yeah.
He's but no, he's actually better than Stidham because he actually has starting quarterback experience.
And I agree with that too.
Yeah, but what he's saying is that in your case, the Broncos moved on from
contract-wise.
Right, exactly. Yes, exactly.
Okay, yeah, contract-wise, yeah, Stidham got PAID.
And by the way, I actually think you guys did better with Minshew than we did in our situation here, which means that your team is set up better for future than the Broncos did ourselves with what we did with Russell Wilson, which I am on record on multiple podcasts, multiple times saying was a mistake from the beginning. And that's on record on video. So we can, put that to bed. So, but nonetheless, I think the Raiders have put themselves in a much better position on a go forward basis. And so the question is, do you guys really need to go quarterback? My answer is no. I actually think that you guys are better off going the better route, which, by the way, I do agree with. And frankly, I think the Broncos will make a mistake, but I think the Raiders will do the right thing.
Ikey Boy, again, is a Charger fan that doesn't know all of the friggin' facts. When we played Herbert, okay, it was Graham under McDaniel. Okay, Graham under McDaniel was a different defense than Graham under AP. Ikey Boy, get a clue. Okay, I held it.
But you're correct. So at the end of the day, the head coach has veto power over most of the coordinators on the team, and that's just simply the way the dynamics work. And that's also why when head coaches get fired, you sometimes see certain sides of the ball do better than they otherwise did, because that veto power is now gone, because the dude that's then put in as the interim no longer has the ultimate veto power that the original head coach had, because they're there as a placeholder. They're not there as the permanent position. And therefore you typically end up with this kind of like trifecta of guys across the top on the roster. And that's why you end up where you're at. But I go back to the Raiders in terms of what you guys are looking forward to in the draft and looking at kind of what I think your positions are. And I'm interested in both of your opinions on what you think you guys are going to do. I don't think quarterback's going to be as high on your draft board as a lot of people are thinking. I actually think that you guys are going to be looking to rebuild your offensive line to kind of make you guys a stronger unit on that front. I think you guys are going to be looking to. I think, yeah, I think you guys are going to be looking at another either interior defensive lineman like a Byron, for example. I think he's.
And by the way, it's Gandalf to you, IP boy. Get your shit right.
Compton Hugh Jackson's pretty good though.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah,
That's pretty good.
well, it's Gandalf. It's Gandalf the White, who's been around since the Last Supper, who knows a lot. Okay, go back up into the conversation. But
Well,
Richie,
just for the record, though,
for the draft,
the top half of this podcast is likely much larger than you are, so let's simmer down. Okay.
you really scare me when you're in friggin' Canada and then Smug is over in Kansas City. Okay,
I can be on the plane in 10 minutes.
Go ahead. You don't know? Do you know where I'm at?
No, I'm talking about Ike. He needs to simmer down.
Okay.
And frankly, Jack, you do too. Let's calm down. Let's bring the temperature down.
Get to the draft, baby. Okay? Raiders draft.
Now,
I will be at the draft. But now, you want us to know what we're looking for. Okay, yeah. I'm trying to get it back there. Yeah. As Squid was trying to.
I can't read the comments. It's too far from me, so I'm good. So where do you want to
go? Okay. Well, and I will say this: that the Raiders will be getting a quarterback in this draft. They will be getting a quarterback in this draft, but I don't think it's going to be all of these got to jump up to 2 to 3 to get one. Okay, you don't even need to get one at 13. If you really have a pucker factor of I want this guy and I'm afraid he's going to be gone, i.e. Michael Penix is the word of the day. If you really think that Michael Penix is going to be gone after 13, I can see that. But I still think that the Raiders are going to wait and see what they can do. Maybe jump into the first round at the end with somebody. Obviously, they're not going to jump in at 32 because I don't think that the Chiefs would help them out. But I can see 31, 30, or 29 and get one of those quarterbacks that they're afraid won't be there in round 2. A la what the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. I can see that. But I honestly think.
I don't think so.
That if you would allow me, sir.
Yeah.
I really don't think that's going to happen either. But for those that are saying that we're going to do this in the first round, I don't think it's going to be a quarterback in the first round. I really think that they're going to get a stalwart tackle, okay, like Fashional or Fuaga. I love Fuaga because he is big, strong, and you can't teach that stuff. Plus, we got Nolan here, who's a very nice dog title. But I think that we're going to do that, or then you have the do we need the cornerback that everybody's talking about, like Quinion Mitchell, or the other kid who I'm sorry, the kid out of Clemson. Who is like
Wiggins?
Wiggins.
Nate Wiggins.
Yeah, Nate Wiggins.
He's just tiny, man.
Yeah, but I know, and I like that.
Talented.
But that's why I want Mitchell because he's a prototype as far as size, speed, and what he can do. So I'm thinking if you're going to do that,
he's my cornerback one in this draft too, Mitchell.
You get Mitchell out of Toledo, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Go Rockets.
Okay, see, I pay attention when I can. Okay. So I think it's going to be that. Now, if they want to really throw people off, if you want to have somebody like Mitchell or Murphy, Mitchell Murphy, I know it's an F. You get a Murphy out of Texas or a Latu out of UCLA at 13. Are you kidding? You got somebody that you can put on that big defensive line and build that when you have Max Crosby, Wilkins, Tyree Wilson, who's going to be a lot better in his second year because he's not going to have all of the impediments of that plantar fasciitis. He's going to break out and come into his own. He's going to play inside, outside. And by the way, the kid Coons played well last year. And then they had the other guy that was like a pickup that was a great pickup along the lines. Was it Farrell? The kid that actually played in Miami with Wilkins. So they re-signed him. And the other guy that was out of Florida State, who did well when he's not doing stupid things. Again, I'll feed you, Robert. When he's not doing stupid things, getting traffic incidents in Vegas. Okay, so there's that. And so I think that it's really going to be tackle. It could really be, and again, Fuaga and Murphy, great. And again, plug and play. I don't think Alt's going to drop that high. And I think if you're going to go get Alt, you're going to have to jump up to get like 6, 7 when all of the quarterbacks are, if they do what they say that they're going to have all these quarterbacks.
He'll be right below the quarterbacks. He'll be right below the quarterback.
Right. You got the quarterbacks. You got Marvin Harrison. You got Neighbors out of LSU. Then you're going to have Alt being the first one off.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And that's my prediction.
I agree.
We'll see. But again, the Raiders will be going. They're going to be feeding like the people like I think Schmuck, not Smug, but Schmuck was saying about the offensive line. Hey, I got to throw it when I can. They're going to be getting offensive linemen. They're going to be getting those guys that are going to build the trenches, just like you were talking about an AP identity. He's going. The Raiders were run, smack you, and then they throw it over the top, and they're going to do that as well. So that's what I think identity-wise. It's going to be the Raiders of old, that when they used to win and they still had the most penalties called against them, which they probably will be again. The funny thing is that under AP, the penalties were historically down. The Raiders were one of the least penalized teams in the NFL, which surprised the hell out of everybody that is a Raiders fan. And it's when you have the dynamics of a group that actually
he was a disciplined player, though.
Well, yeah,
he was a disciplined player.
The discipline was brought down by AP, and the players kowtowed to that.
Yeah, he was a very disciplined player when he was in the league. I'm going to be honest, that did not surprise me because he was a dude that was very by the book, right?
Hey, that's true, Ikey boy. But I tell you what, there's never been a stench of any Charger smoking a friggin' cigar for any championships. Just saying.
So, Bishop, you are incorrect on the news you got there.
Yeah.
But, we're not going to get into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually think my prediction for your Las Vegas Raiders this draft captain, just for what it's worth, is I think you guys are going to be targeting probably someone like a Joe Alt or Fuaga with your first pick if he's there.
I think it's going to be Fuaga,
and I think it'll be kind of one of those two, if I'm going to be honest. Yeah. And then I think in round 3, you're going to be targeting one of the best available running backs to kind of start going back to your, as you stated, your OG or original identity, which, again, going first full circle to my previous comments, guys, this is what my concern is Jacobs was kind of that guy for you guys already, right? He was that guy that kind of established himself as capable of being that dude, where you could have actually just simply built up your offensive line, and then Jacobs would have been, virtually unstoppable for 3 to 5 years.
Remember, it's Gandalf the White. He went.
It's gray, my man. It's gray.
No, Gandalf the White. If you go by what you know,
well, actually, if you're going to be honest.
He started as Gandalf the Grey, but by the end of the series, what was he?
White. So, as Gandalf aged, matured, and got wiser throughout Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings obviously came after. He became Gandalf the White, and unfortunately, too many people just don't read. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah, Ike, it's called reading and writing. Oh, I think I pissed the Smugs off.
So I'm going to quickly run down the Broncos I've prepped a little bit for this just because I think the Broncos are in one of the most interesting spots in the AFC West. We obviously have the Russell Wilson thing that's kind of looming over our heads, and as I said, you can say all you want towards me. I was not one of the fans of Russell Wilson, so do what you want.
You're on record.
I don't really care. I don't really care.
Yeah.
So obviously there's the ultimate question, which is, do the Broncos go quarterback, or do they start building out the roster?
Build the roster.
And I am the rare Broncos fan. And it'll be interesting to see kind of where my Broncos land this draft, and this will be super like for me. This is the draft that matters the most, in my opinion. The Denver Broncos need to build out the roster.
Yeah.
And what we truly need here is we need to get a stalwart on the offensive or defensive line when it comes in the first round. And then we need to go into the rounds, 3, 4, 5, and so on. And we need to absolutely just build out just incredible depth. So where I see the Broncos going is a couple different positions in the first round. If the Broncos believe that the center is in fact one of the more critical positions on the offensive line and are being honest with themselves,
you're gonna get Austin Powers.
Then we need to go down and we need to get the what I just refer to as the
I call him Austin Powers. I can't remember what the kid's name is, but it's like
Jackson Powers. Jackson Powers.
Yeah. So I call that the law firm name, which is like
baby. Yeah, baby. So, that's why I say Austin Powers.
So you go to that guy there as your critical cog in the offensive line, which is next year you're thinking you're probably going to trade a bunch of picks to get a quarterback. And so you want that offensive center who's established, has got himself a year in the league, and is that guy. I look to the Chargers when you lost your staple offensive center there. You guys were a shell of yourselves, if you're going to be honest, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And
hey, was it something I said, Alex? I'm very sorry.
Yeah, I think I got hit with an EMP or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's unfortunate that you weren't prepared after seeing The Matrix, but we'll forgive you. And
Did you take the blue pill or the red pill? That's what I want to know.
There's only one right answer.
I'm too young for the blue pill.
Good one.
That was the right answer.
Yeah.
That was the right answer.
Yeah.
That was the right answer right there. So,
hey, blue pills help.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. But when you look at when you look at where the Broncos are at, you either choose to go offensive center or you look at the right tackle. And frankly, if Fulaga's still on the board, the Broncos should be getting him, 100% of the time, because McGlinchey has been not the guy they were hoping for. We really need the help on the right side of the ball. And the Broncos are known as a running team. Is actually one of the things that sets us apart because of our, between 7 and 8 games or what have you at the stadium there. It gives us a competitive advantage because of the thin air with the training at altitude. And so when you get the linemen that are able to block and push guys off the ball, you want to be able to run and grind other teams down, because by the fourth quarter, that really is a legitimate competitive advantage at Mile High Stadium. So,
well, if we don't, Rick, and actually they pick in front of us,
we pick in front.
That's why it's going to be interesting, because you guys are both, looking for, well, at least the right tackle, similar person, and it's right, boom, boom.
Yeah,
This is why I want this. This is why I want the Chargers to trade back. So our 3 teams will pick back to back to back, 11, 12, and 13.
Just which might happen too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So just to be kind of completely transparent in terms of who's at what spot, we have Luke Wattenberg that couldn't crack a starting role even when we knew we were likely moving on for Cushenberry in the back end of last season. He remained on the bench, and we continued to play Cushenberry, risking his injury and potentially not lending us a better compensatory pick. That's just a crazy move. And then we have Alex Forsyth that per predictions isn't even going to end up being the second center for the Denver Broncos. Sam Mustipher is the second tier offensive center for us as it stands right now.
Why do you always have guys with difficult names?
Mustafar, that's where Vader's from.
Yeah. And then when you move on and move over to what I see as the next most important position, we signed a guy who the Giants wanted to get rid of, and all fans were happy left in Matt Pert, which is a wonderful camp body to be there filling a whole bunch of space and probably eating a lot of food, but is not going to make the roster, I hope. And then you end up with Mike McGlinchey. So when you're looking at the weakest positions on the Denver Broncos, you are definitely looking at the right tackle and center position. And then there's a low-key position group on the Denver Broncos that could be very interesting, and that is the left tackle position as well, which I think a lot of people are not looking at, which is Garrett Bowles is not young. He came into the league old, and he's certainly not any younger now. And the Denver Broncos, if they're looking to build a roster and an offensive line, could well trade him to another team for, a second-round pick or a third-round pick if someone's really interested, and try to move back into the first or keep their first-round pick and try to trade a replacement for Bowles in the first round. And so that's an interesting spot for the Broncos to be in as well when it comes to those three critical positions on the offensive line. And then the one position group that the Broncos have truly struggled with since Super Bowl 50, and geez, that has been way too long ago, is a pass rushing on the interior. We have not really had great pressure from the middle of our defensive line, and that's actually where I truly think that we could use either a D tackle or a defensive end who is a pass rusher in that spot, and I think that that's where we could be looking at in that first round, because those are those premium picks. So you're talking about guys that are likely going to go early, and they're going to be within that top 32. In my opinion, obviously quarterback, that's your number one spot on the team, because if you don't have a quarterback, you're probably not going to win the league. But when it comes to other teams, which is where I see my Denver Broncos, frankly, Captain, it's also where I see the Las Vegas Raiders, is you need to build your team before you get yourself a quarterback if you don't believe you have one on the roster already. And that would mean building out the offensive line. And the benefit that, in my opinion, the Raiders have, the Broncos don't have, which is the Raiders have a quarterback that looked okay.
Serviceable.
And you have another quarterback. I'm not done yet. I am not done yet. And you have a guy as your backup who I think is even better as a serviceable option if you're the guy that you want to be probably your starter in, what was it, AOC 4.
AOC 4. Thank you for saying AOC 4, sir. I appreciate that.
You have AOC 4 who's there, who you guys want to be your guy of the future. But even if he proves that he can't be, you got a backup there who is more than serviceable to step in and win you guys games for sure. Like, that's not even a question.
You guys signed him to a 2-year deal, right, Jack?
Yes.
2 years.
Minshew, 2 years.
So that's the perfect situation for you guys. If you were to ride out Minshew as the veteran starter this year, and then you draft somebody next year, sits behind Minshew.
But see, may I, sir? Okay, because I wasn't allowed to cut in on Rich. Well, which was cool because I did cut him off a couple times. But the one thing is that O'Connell was again hamstrung by the McDaniels playbook and the guy who was running it. And McDaniels said, don't change plays. God forbid you have Derek Carr change a play against the Seahawks to win the game with Josh Jacobs running back there, and look it up. It actually happened. But, he was told not to run. And I've been told that's out the window now. And if you go back to early Derek Carr, he actually would run occasionally. He would run until he got injured. And then he became, and I'll throw you a softball there, Robert. Then he became that little ball of, oh my God, when the guys are on. Okay, and that was on Carr getting injured.
You're talking about that game when Carr went down.
Yes.
I was actually in literally this. I was in San Diego for a little bit. Captain mentioned it. Lived there for a bit, and I was at Christie's, the fucking our Raider bar down there, sitting there crying with every other Raider fan when we realized our season was over and Carr went down.
Didn't you guys have a playoff spot locked?
Say again.
Didn't you guys have a playoff spot locked by that point? Like, wasn't that the whole thing too? Like, you guys didn't even need to start Carr that game.
Yeah. Because the very next game you had who I call Pat McGroin. Okay, it was actually Matt McCoy.
Who got injured?
Who got injured
for Connor Cook?
who got injured on the last game up in Denver, at which they lost. And then you start Connor Cook, who was the first rookie quarterback. The first rookie quarterback to start a playoff game and whatever. Hey, but if it wasn't for Connor Cook, the Cowboys wouldn't have had taken Dak Prescott.
No. I do want to address this particular comment here. Rick, I agree that you build the trenches on both sides of the ball in today's NFL, 100%. Where you're going to lose me, though, is when you get to the, we'll call it post-comma in your comment, which is the secondary. And the reason why I disagree with that is in today's NFL, the interior defensive line, and that's from defensive end to defensive end in terms of your interior there, depending on which defense you're running, whether it be a 4-3 or 3-4. I'm just going to say from a 3-4, you have D end, D tackle, and then your D end. Those groups of players are, in fact, the most critical in today's NFL, and that is because of the rules of today's NFL when it comes to how a quarterback can be tackled and some other things. So I agree the trenches are important. Secondary is actually more dependent today now than ever on the success of the pressure of the defensive line. And so I actually think that when you see super successful cornerbacks, we talked about Patrick Surtain, we talked about a couple other dudes. There's a couple guys that are elite, but for the most part, most of those cornerbacks and safeties are almost purely dependent on the success of the interior defensive line and them getting home. And that's also why the Chiefs, for example, I believe are so confident in re-signing Chris Jones and letting Snead go, is they believe that they can replace that talent with another guy, but they believe that Chris Jones is virtually irreplaceable. And if you want my honest opinion, the answer is yes.
You see it. This year was a prime example of the D tackles getting paid. They're getting paid for a reason. There's a shift, and obviously,
I agree.
It's there.
I agree. And Squid, you're right. You're right. Like 100%, you are right. And even mediocre D tackles are getting paid money that they've never seen before.
It's so important, and their value rose, just like unfortunately the running back value decreased and went the opposite way.
Yeah,
you just don't have that. It's just not valued. It's unfortunate, but it's.
May I was real quick, Zed? Yes, to a point, but most of the time it was because San Diego fans were sick of the product that Spanos was putting out, and they would get top dollar for those damn tickets, and they would sell them to Raider fans. And that's why, and it was in the chat earlier, the Raider rule was if you bought a Raiders ticket, you had to buy 2 other tickets. And Raider fans would still do that, buy the Raiders ticket and the other 2 tickets, and then they would end up selling the tickets that they didn't need or just not have them, which is why Qualcomm, although I know it as Jack Murphy because I am a little older, still had basically 0 fans in the stands. Would you not agree, Roberto?
I mean, yeah. I mean, but it was also the sense that too that nobody wanted to update that stadium, and as you just kept going on, and as the years went, and it just became more and more obsolete. Nobody wants to go to that creaky old shack. I mean, it was a great stadium back in the day. I wish I would have been able to. I actually did go to one game in Qualcomm before it was torn down in 2016. But you know, I'm sure it was amazing back in the day, but I mean, yeah, I went and it was like, it looked like the stadium was operating in like the 80s. Like it was all super old school. Like the scoreboards were like
Retro, dude.
yeah,
That's
no,
in
like
now.
straight up, yeah. It was there's a reason they moved. I'll just say that. There's a reason the Chargers moved.
Right.
I didn't agree with it,
So-
but there was a
And
reason.
the same reason that the Raiders moved out of their stadium, because
Right.
it
Yeah.
literally was a shitstorm
Yep.
of
Why everyone's moved out of Oakland. I mean,
So-
the A's,
Dude, yeah.
yeah.
The
And
one
again,
I
boy, Raider fans are not like Kansas City fans that hold up banks to get all their money for the tickets. So look at the hell out.
So I actually have
Man.
I have an interesting piece that we've all brought up here on the
Oh, right, that was
podcast.
low.
And
It's funny though.
yeah, it was.
no, that was good.
Yeah, I have
Forgot
a
about the Wolf.
I have a question actually for the three of us. So myself, Roberto, and you, Captain, as well.
And I remember I got a side piece here. You know,
Yeah,
so-
well, be careful how you word that.
I said
Yeah.
it deliberately. I said it.
Somebody clip that. Somebody clip that.
Yeah,
I said it deliberately. Okay, come on. You don't think that I didn't say that deliberately? Come on.
Well,
Well,
look,
I don't know with you, man.
look, you can say it intentionally or you can say it accidentally. Either way, questionable comment, but either way.
My God, I feed for this show, and then you're saying that I'm stupid doing it. Come on, man.
I didn't say that at all. Actually, it's still funny.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
it's still funny. But the three of us, the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Broncos. I think this is the fascinating part of this upcoming 2024 draft. We are literally all wanting the same players,
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
right? Like if we're just calling it duck a duck, right? We're wanting Fuaga, Byron Murphy.
That one's a little bit lower on our list, but for you two, yeah, definitely
Well, I
definitely
mean,
that.
We're all intermixing some of the same players
Yeah.
amongst all of our teams. Fuaga, whether it be a left tackle, depending on who we're talking about. Like we're all kind of in the same, bubble of looking for similar players.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, if any of our teams, between the three of us, with the exception of the Chargers there, obviously, Robert, certainly between the Raiders and the Broncos, if either of us then say, no, this year is our quarterback year, then we're all then again looking at the same pool of players, which is, it's really remarkable because you typically don't get that within a division. Like most of the time, you end up with these like staggered wonky results, right? Where you end up where, three teams have a quarterback and one team just sucks because they don't. Or you end up with.
Remember the Chargers got to replace Easton Stick. I mean, that's paramount.
Well, we just re-signed him. I don't know why, but yeah.
Oh my, I apologize. I did not see
Thank you.
that.
Thank you. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
What
I'm
other
actually
teams looking at doing in this
Even
draft?
if he's there, they still got to replace him.
Receiver?
Yeah.
Receiver, you think?
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Squid.
You think? I missed it. You talked about Chiefs going receiver. You think is your biggest need? I mean, granted, defending champs. So
Hey, Smug, he's asking you a question.
Yeah,
yeah.
he said receiver and then it cut out. What'd you say?
biggest
after that?
need.
He said,
Is
if
that
that's,
biggest need?
do you think that's your
Yeah.
biggest need? Yes or no?
Okay. That's kind of what I figured. Where it's the big difference is we don't need a receiver. We're covered.
Yeah, no, I would say receiver or corner are the two biggest needs for the Chiefs roster. I really think it's an 1A, 1B for them, just because of re-signing pretty much everyone that was on the team last year outside of MVS and a couple others. So really, I mean, if anything, the Rice situation and a little more clarity with that and what suspension he will get would probably push the receiver need up to 1A or 1. But, yeah, I mean, that's certainly at the top.
So I guess what my question for you, Alex, on that front is, why wouldn't you want to push for a tight end in this position, in this draft rather, with one or two of them being in a elite level,
Yeah.
One, they get to learn under Travis Kelce, which, as much as it pains me to say out loud, is definitely within the top echelon of the NFL ever, and that's like, crippling for me to say aloud. But his stats just
speaking objectively.
Yeah, his stats just prove it. So there's that, and then two, tight ends in this league that are multifaceted, and frankly, Kelce is able to probably pass along some of his knowledge to a younger guy, knowing that he probably only has like 2, maybe 3 years left at best.
I think you got 2. Yeah, I think you got 2. Maybe even 1.
At best.
Yeah, but I know he's got some bad blood, but Ike boys is kind of partially right. I mean, outside of Brock Bowers, obviously, like I would love if somehow the Chiefs got Brock Bowers, that'd be.
Don't even. Like,
it's not a real. I mean, it's not realistic. They'd have to get up into the top 10, and no.
Yeah, he's gonna go top.
Yeah, okay, Chiefs. Yeah, go ahead and take this. Who everyone has called a once in a lifetime Kyle Pitts-esque prospect at the position. Like, go ahead.
You have a cheat code. Yeah,
I do think that they'll take a tight end prospect like later,
3rd or 4th round.
And we've seen them do that before with Noah Gray. They've taken Jody Fortson. But
I agree. I agree. Yeah, DZ.
A guy that I really like for tight end. I like Theo Johnson, but I think
Theo Johnson. Yep.
I think he did too well at the combine.
He might go 2nd round.
But this dude Jared Wiley out of TCU, he's a little bit lower down the ranking. But the reason I like him is he's a former QB, which is like, I mean, that's what Kelce was. Kelce was in Cincinnati to play QB, and then smoked his way into being a tight end, I'm pretty sure. But
I like that.
But that's what makes Kelce, in my opinion, that's what makes him so good at kind of having that cerebral connection with Mahomes. He played QB.
Don't bogart that shit there, Roberto. Don't bogart that shit, man.
But, he's got a similar mold and background to what Kelce had, and I think that's the type of guy that they can bring in and say, hey, here, you're connected to his hip. Do whatever he does, and we'll see what happens. We'll let this bake in the oven for 2 years and see what happens. So, I do think that they will get a tight end. Where that's at is to be seen, but I see them addressing it. I mean, if they could get Brock Bowers, sick, but that will never happen. So,
unless you trade up for him.
Yeah, I was going to say barring a trade up. Yep.
But I don't
that's actually where I was going with it, though, which is, all right, you look at the Chiefs' holes on the roster. There's like 2 or 3 positions that you guys really need, right?
Unfair.
Oh, it would. It would be legit unfair. But
I mean, crazier things has happened, like Jalen Carter falling to the Eagles. That was ridiculous.
That seemed like such a setup from the beginning. Like everybody was talking about, like, oh, Jalen Carter, like character issues, like and then you just saw him fall and fall and fall.
And then he did fall.
Until he was amazing. Shocker, the guy who dominated on tape was amazing in the pros. Like, wow, who could have saw it coming?
Well, and remember that one of the reasons why he fell was because of those character issues, and everybody was cracking on the Raiders. Right, and everybody was cracking on the Raiders for taking Tyree Wilson, who was coming off his plantar fasciitis. Everybody said that he's a bust. I personally, and again, I have optimism here, but I think that if you play him correctly in that tweener role like Callie Long used to be, he'd be out at end, he'd be out of tackle, depending upon what the needs are. He's going to be a fantastic addition to that defensive line. So look for him to really excel this year.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's why Carter fell to the Eagles. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, what you were saying, Rich, I'm all for Bowers if he falls to trade up, but I don't think he makes it past the Jets. Where are the Jets at?
10. They're at 10,
yeah, I don't think he makes it past that.
That's where I think he goes too. But realistically, where would he have to fall to for the Chiefs? Realistically, look at trading up
past 10. I think.
Well, oh, did we lose him?
If they're good enough, I mean, it's hard to value them. Like we saw Pitts go super early. it's just tough to know how to value them and how teams are prioritizing them. Because honestly, I could see if Bowers falls at past 10, I mean, your team, Richie, or Cavs team, I can see them taking him too. I mean, maybe not Cav because they took Mayer.
Yeah, we took Mayer last year.
I mean,
which would be great. Could you imagine having Mayer and Bowers?
Him and Mayer would be
hey, we've seen teams that
duo.
have prioritized taking tight ends, taking 2 tight ends in one draft. I mean, talk about the Patriots. It made it work. So I mean, crazier things are happening, but I just don't see him making it far enough for the Chiefs to move up with what they have without giving up an ass
a whole lot. Yeah, you guys would have
a guy that you're not even going to rely on from the jump, barring some kind of injury.
I think the Raiders is actually, like, hearing that now, that's actually such a legitimate place for Bowers to land. If the Jets are smart and end up taking Fuaga at 10, like they should, because that's the right pick for them, I think 100% the Raiders would take Bowers at 12 or 13, at 13.
The only reservation I'd say is that I feel like the Raiders, or at least McDaniel, the past cut, they didn't really give Mayer a chance. And I mean, when Mayer was coming in the draft, he was like baby Gronk. And I mean, you go watch his highlight tapes. It is Notre Dame, but he was pretty effing good.
I seem to recall somebody at the draft last year that was really, really excited for the Michael Mayer pick and was on camera. I can't recall who the hell that was.
I think it was the Pirates.
Yeah. ESPN and NFL Network. I didn't realize.
It was on the
ESPN. That's some fine.
ESPN.
I think what the problem though is my point, Alex, is that you have very few holes on your offensive line outside of left tackle.
Mm-hmm.
And picking that late in the draft will not typically land you a great left tackle. You are almost better off sticking with the dude you have this year, who is probably going to be better than the guy you're going to pick late first round because you saw him play last year and he was not bad. Right? So then the question is, all right, if you're probably not going to get a dude that's better than the dude you already have at left tackle, what is the next most important position? Well, for you guys, it's a pass catcher. And then on top of that, if you can get a pass-catching tight end who can fill that void, great.
Yeah.
Right? And so I could totally see you guys looking at this as like Rice's situation may have elevated the need for a pass catcher. But on top of that, coming into this year's draft, you guys would have probably been looking for a guy that you would like to work behind Kelsey, because your team, better than almost any team in the NFL, and hold on, hear me out, has done excellent at drafting depth. Like, you guys have filled the important spots on your roster with good players, but what the Chiefs have been undersold on, in my opinion, is your ability to actually get dudes that are in behind the starters and just rotate through players.
Yeah.
And most AFC West opponents are not willing to give you that credit. I am, but
I will too. Like I said,
I am.
And that's what I was going to say with your point about not getting an elite tackle, at pick 32. And that's why I was kind of talking about earlier, where I think they're in a position where they know they need potentially a tackle for sure, pass catcher, cornerback, and they can kind of see who falls. Because, I mean, someone from one of those position groups is going to fall, and they're going to be able to get someone in the more elite echelon of that group, at the position. Because I hear what you're saying on picking depth, but I don't agree with using your first round pick on a depth guy to just, even if it is a Brock Bowers, when there's other needs in terms of, who's going to fill out the wide receiver core, who's going to fill in behind McDuffie. Let's, address that first and maybe find that guy in the second, third, fourth round where, we can swallow that pill a little easier than like, hey, I spent my first round pick on this guy, but I don't expect to really see much out of him for 2 years. But we'll see how it goes, because I think Veach has shown that he's he will be aggressive when he needs to be and let the board play out when he needs to do that too. And whoever's in that scouting department has done a pretty good job since he's taken over.
Yep.
I mean, you're talking about Creed Humphrey. I mean, second best center in the league, if not the best, second round pick. Trey Smith, one of the best right guards in the league, 5th round, 6th round pick. Pacheco, 7th round pick. Basically, all their corners not named McDuffie were all 5th round picks or later. So, I mean, he's definitely found that lightning in a bottle. But, it's also a part of the whole group doing that because, I mean, he's definitely taken that haven't panned out either. And some first round picks he's had. I mean, looking at Ndike Uzoma, the guy they took last year, didn't really seem to hit this season in terms of, playing DN. But full trust in Beach at this point because they've certainly been able to build the roster and stay competitive, while paying people.
In that group too. Clyde Edwards picked in the first round was probably not a great.
I'll talk about it.
Well.
Oh, and that was in that situation. That was the one time when they kind of picked for luxury, right? Because they just came off the Super Bowl, they didn't really have a huge glaring need. It's like, hey, Pat said let's take this sweet running back out of LSU who looked kind of good on this, prolific, historic offense full of basically every player that's in the top 5 in the league right now at their position, and let's take the running back out of that core. He should be fine, and then. I think he could have been good. He got injured 3 times in the span of a year, and I don't think ever came back. But that was the one time you saw Veach make more of a luxury pick versus you looked at a pick he made early and said, "Oh, yeah, I get why he did that." And I think that's why we haven't seen him really do something like that, since then, because it kind of blew up in his face. Yeah, Ike boy, that was the exact news was that Mahomes said, "Go get me Clyde." We saw how it's about. Mahomes also said, "Go get me Rice," and that at least looked like it partially panned out. I guess that's to be foreseen a little bit.
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, I think that there's 3 of our teams that are really vying for very similar players, depending on where you rank those players in terms of need on our teams, and. It's, Captain and obviously Robert, you weren't here leading into last year's draft. Coach, I don't know if he's still here, but Coach was on, in your spot last year with the panel. And it's super interesting how right tackle, if we're going to be honest, is still a need for 3 of our teams. And when we all made that same comment last year, right? The Raiders, the Chargers.
But I was going to say, but. And the only reason why I say, but is because that and I keep saying this, that they got a mountain of a man, Dalton. It's not Dalton Hilliard because he played running back for the Broncos a couple of days, but it's Dalton something who is out of Arkansas that is just big and big. Okay. And he was on the IR last year. Dalton Wagner. Yeah, see, I didn't look it up either. It just came. Dalton Wagner was on the IR, and they're projecting him to be that right tackle. And if he's not, Mumford is that guy that can play guard and tackle that might take that, that spot. And then you're trying to say, well, maybe Mumford rolls over to the guard. The Raiders signed the kid out of the Bears, who's a center guard, so they took that. They took care of that. Maybe Parham, who's one of the smaller guys on the team, even though they took him in round 3 after they dealt their first 2 picks for Devontae Adams. Maybe Parham is the odd man out because he's kind of like the small, quick, agile offensive lineman and just not the move people type of offensive lineman. But yeah, we'll see. But you got there. So yeah, they actually did address that, but people forget that he was a UFA, and so it wasn't a pick, and they might.
Oh no, I remember that dude. He's a monster of a dude.
Yeah.
The question with him though will ultimately be, and this is the big question:
is he fast enough?
Yes, exactly, and also more importantly, we've seen in previous drafts injured dudes that are really good, and I mean like elite level good. They will still get drafted, but they'll get drafted in like the 4th.
Yeah.
Right, or the 5th, especially at a tackle.
Yeah.
Like tackle.
That's why that's how Trey Smith got drafted. He had a heart issue.
Right.
Otherwise, he would have been like 2nd, 3rd round pick.
Right. So I mean, for the most part, you typically get guys that are even at those, and I'm only referring to premium positions. Like we're talking edge rusher, left tackle, right tackle, quarterback. Those that upper tier position group. Cornerbacks would be another one sometimes, although I still maintain that they're being devalued now in today's NFL. But when you look at right tackle in particular being such a premium position, given what the quarterbacks require and need, I actually believe that you're going to start seeing, or you will see, him being probably better than most, but still probably not good enough. And so the thing that you want to be careful of, and I'm just being honest. And by the way, this is like advice for my opponent. So I'm, is that really what I want to do? But we'll see. Is if you were going to be honest with yourself, you probably want to keep him as that great swing tackle, right? Every team needs that dude in behind the other two guys because eventually one of them will get hurt. Yeah. And so is he going to be the starter? No. But do you know what's like almost like the 4th most important position on a team is your swing tackle. So that ain't bad either. Right? Yeah. Like that ain't bad either.
Right. And there are times that when Mick fired, and that's what I thank you for Jack for reminding me that I didn't call him McShitnuts like a lot of people did. But when Mick fired was there and we needed that extra tight end for blocking, we threw that extra tackle in there. It was Illuminor originally, then it was Mumford, and they would have them both on the right side. So, if you throw Dalton Wagner out there and you need a yard and you can't get it with the guys that are up front, then you got issues there.
Right. And so we'll wait and see where you land, but I do still maintain that until proven otherwise, right? Because he's never seen a snap on the field. So it's still, you hope,
TBD.
Right? Yeah, TBD. You still hope, right? And trust me, the Broncos have a few dudes like that on our team too. So, as an example, Wazarike is a interior defensive lineman. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. You hope that he has learned that betting on football games while he's in the league is a really dumb idea. But he had some elite traits coming out of college. He never really showed it when he was with the Broncos under the former DC before we have who we have now. And so the question is he going to show out what he did in college? Or is he going to show out like he did in his first year in the league? I don't know. Which one do I hope for? College. Right? Obviously, I want him to look out and look better than he did. But he wasn't anything spectacular in his first year in the NFL. So I would hope that he has learned, absorbed, matured, so on and so forth. But he is wouldn't it be nice if we saw him do better? And I think your guy at right tackle there is very much in the same spot. Would it be great if he was the starter? Yeah. Would you want him to be the starter? For sure. Do you know? No. And that's where Wazarike is for us as well.
Yeah, but don't you have the book that what's his nose had in Back to the Future 2? He had
the almanac.
Yeah, the almanac.
Almanac.
Yeah, and so he knew who was going to win the Super Bowl and the World Series each year. I thought you had the book, Rich.
Well, my guess is the dude's going to tank, just as I think your guy's also going to tank, because I think there are two position groups that are the exception to the rule are guys that are not taken in the first round in interior defensive line and right tackle in particular. Right tackle even more so than interior defensive line. And so when you look at the odds, like just purely odds, betting odds favorite, given the fact you're in Vegas, because, why wouldn't I go there? Right tackle and left tackle in the NFL, the absolute top echelon players in the NFL at both position groups were taken in the first round.
Yeah.
And just a fact, it just is.
We don't have Japanese interpreters, though.
No. I agree.
Is that a shot at Shohei?
Hey, if the bet fits.
If the parlay hits.
So, anyways, guys, I think we've had an interesting show where we kind of broken down a few things. I still find it unbelievable that in a division there's so much parity.
Similarities.
Yeah, parity.
Yeah, that.
You know, it's despite the fact that our guy over here is a Super Bowl champ.
Resident smug.
Resident
Well, not
smug.
me.
We
team I
still
like
have fairly similar requirements when we're coming into the offseason and the draft. It's just, obviously I think the Chiefs are in a different spot, but nonetheless, the majority of the division is so similar.
Well, that's what happens when all of us tried to go all in to dethrone the Chiefs, and we all failed. And the Chiefs still won the Super Bowl, and so now here we are reeling, and the Chiefs are just laying back, smoking the cigars.
It's nice.
Like, yeah.
I like.
Right. So I think it's fascinating, interesting how we're kind of in very similar positions. I also think it'll be interesting to see
next week
the strategic position that each of our teams take. And at the end of the day, none of us will know which strategic path forward will truly yield positive results. And I think it'll be very, very interesting. I think the Broncos and the Chargers are in different positions. And then I think the Raiders are in an even more unique and different position where the head coach has a vision and he's trying to execute it. The question is that vision a successful one, or will it yield in the failure?
The strategery.
Yeah. Exactly. Not to be confused with Monty Python's Shrubbery, which is a completely different topic for a different show. And don't even bring up Joseph the Shrubber at all. I don't want to hear it. That's like the third movie reference in the show so far tonight. And Jack, I know you'll appreciate this. Go away before I taunt you a second time. You didn't pick up on it. That's unfortunate. That was.
I'm sorry. Who are you trying to? Was it me?
That was Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
No. I'm sorry. I was trying to read what the kid that doesn't know how to speak English when he said the Raiders ain't been in a Super Bowl since as the Raiders haven't. Go back to elementary school, Ikey boy.
Right.
In earlier comments. So.
But anyway, so when we look at our teams, there's just
by the way, I'm sorry, Rich. I was actually a freshman in college when the Raiders did win the last Super Bowl. So you said that I was a lot younger. So I appreciate the comment that you think I'm younger than I am, because I was I actually was of drinking age when the Raiders actually won their last Super Bowl, or just gotten there. So
I was also of drinking age when the Broncos won their last Super Bowl.
Yeah.
But with regards to just kind of how we're all situated, I think it's really interesting just in terms of interesting parity across the division. Obviously, the Chargers and the Broncos, actually, and frankly, the Chiefs as well, all have established head coaches. Generally speaking, that have records. The question is, can the Broncos head coach and the Chargers head coach reinvent themselves in a certain way to prove that they can do it a second go round after moving to a different team? I think it's without question that we have to basically say that yes, Andy Reid is fully capable of doing so. He's won enough Super Bowls in his new team to prove that the answer to that is yes. And then let's just be honest. Let's just call a duck exactly. And then the question is with the newer coach there with the Las Vegas Raiders is, does he have a vision, and will that vision be realized, yes or no, when it comes to the head office? And
to be determined.
And all of those are question marks. Like these are not things that we can call out today. But nonetheless, I think it's very, very important. And Jack, I think this is also critical and important for the division rivals who are hopefully joining the show and watching us live tonight, it is not fair to judge a head coach if the front office does not execute his vision.
There you go, Robert. There's your out.
Oh no, I didn't have an out. I had a terrible head coach and a terrible GM. There was no getting out of that.
No, there wasn't. And frankly, Staley, I think
he didn't have a vision. He was blind.
Yeah, he didn't have a vision or anything because, as an example, Fangio had a vision but had a front office that couldn't execute. And the reason why you knew that was that the Broncos' defense, which was his side of the ball, was top 5 every year he was here. Right? It just was. Like they were that good every time he was here. And the Broncos just simply used him as a scapegoat when the front office failed. Whereas when you're looking at Staley, Staley had a front office that didn't do what he wanted, and he couldn't coach a team, and you ended up with a team that just didn't do well. And they hated him. And so it was kind of a mix of both worlds there. And so, again, as much as we are all different, we are the same. And so it'll be very interesting to see if the changes we have all made will yield us better results than years past. This draft will be the first of several, which will help determine that. Obviously, the Las Vegas Raiders are in the very early stages of that. And I would also argue the Chargers are also in the early stages of that because both of their head coaches require time to execute their vision. The question will be whether or not their vision is realized either in failure, which is a possibility, or in success, so long as the front office also executes. And with that, guys, we are going to go in a full mock draft for each of our teams next week, where we're going to go to the gritty individual picks.
We're mocking the war.
We are not going to do trades. We're going to pick exactly where we are.
And Raider Nation, if there is nobody representing the Raiders on the panel, I say if because unfortunately I will be traveling to the draft. Let the cat out of the bag here, Richie. I'm going to give you an out. If I'm there and there is no Raider fan here, if T3 can't do it or if somebody else has it, I'm pretty sure that there's enough Raider fans out there that they'll probably take a consensus pick. I think that would be fun, though, too. But
that'd be cool. Yeah, that'd be awesome. So we have a lively chat, so certainly looking forward to their feedback on that. But ladies and gentlemen, next week there will be a live mock draft. I'm very much looking forward to that, and we'll go through kind of where we would each like to go based on what's on the board and all that kind of stuff. No trades, no nothing, just pick where you are. That's the only fair way to do it, in my opinion, which is, just see where the chips land.
Georgia, if Angelo's available, I'm not his keeper.
Yeah. So where the West Side is the best side, ladies and gentlemen, we will see you next week. I appreciate you all joining us.
Peace, brother.
And
fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flame out. So high, I might never come down, so what, this is my lifestyle. Wait a minute,